Hello, everybody. My name is Jackson Black. Welcome to another episode on season two. Joining me today is second generation wrestler Evan Golding. I'm not a good announcer.
You're doing great.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's great to have you. What's that shiny championship you got over your shoulder there?
Look, I don't want to make a big deal about it. It may or may not be the UWS World Championship, World Heavyweight Championship.
Hey, there you go. Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Okay, so let's just jump. So second generation, was it always in your blood, or did you like have to come to it later in life? Was your choice always wrestling, or did you have other avenues you want to pursue first?
Man, I got really fortunate to really have a dad that, despite being like super respected in the industry, never really pressured me to wrestle. He never pushed it onto me and never said, you need to be a part of this wrestling family. He was always really supportive of other things that I was interested in. I love performing, I love making music. He was never like, you're going to be a wrestler and that's how it's going to be. He actually never even really recommended it, which is funny enough. But no, a couple of years back, I just really got inspired to, start myself up. And he was super supportive of it and was like, hey, look, if you want to come into this crazy world, we'll have to get you trained and ready to go. And here I am. And I have to say, I love it. It's been a fantastic journey so far.
It's a fun one.
Yeah.
So being second, like a second generation, like I said earlier, do you think it was easier for you to pick up wrestling as opposed to somebody coming fresh off the street?
What's funny? I actually got like kind of surprised at myself at some of the things that I'm able to do athletically, but as far as like technical wrestling, I've got a lot of work to do, and I realized that my dad is a complete masterclass and will always be putting on clinics, probably up until his last match if he hasn't had it already. And so, like, there's parts of me that I'm like, wow, I really surprised myself at the ability that I can do here. And then there's parts of me that I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever get any better at this certain thing. But yeah, dude, like I'm happy with what I found that I can do in the ring so far, if that makes sense.
I got
Because I never really played any sports or anything growing up, so even my dad was like, I can't even tell if you're going to be any good at this because I never played any sports. So it was a fun discovery to find that I like it so much.
love the business. Gotta love the business. If you're
Oh
not,
yeah,
then there's no point in really doing it.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'm like pleasantly surprised with how I've been able to ease into it.
So, what would you say a couple wrestlers maybe now in the past that kind of influenced how your in ring style and how you work?
Well, I would say that I'm kind of like in a weird age group right now where, and I've never heard too many other people say this, but TNA actually really influenced a lot of my style today because I was like 6 or 7 when TNA first started coming on. And I love the X division that they used to have. And I love the talent that you can still see today on TV that kind of homegrown from TNA. But I would have to say that my dad really influenced me to have a Southern style. So wrestlers from TNA like Jeff Jarrett actually really inspired me as a heel to work kind of Southern, work technical and stuff like that. But then there's a part of me that loves wrestling like AJ Styles, where it's like all mixed together. It's a super, you're a super wrestler. You can be a great technical wrestler, but you can also throw in some really fancy high spots and stuff like that, you know. So I think wrestlers like them, and another one that I really liked, and I think he's still around, is Shelton Benjamin. I don't know if you remember him. He's like a super well-rounded wrestler, and so I used to watch him a lot. So,
Oh, Shelty baby's a mat wizard. That guy's money.
I know, and he can still do a lot of like the fancy flips and stuff too. So he's like, that makes him a well-rounded wrestler. So I would say, like, so those are some of the guys that I used to watch on TV that I would be like, these are like wrestlers that I would want to be like. And of course, my old man influenced me like no other, you know, just seeing him in person. Just as a kid, like my own dad in the ring is like the coolest feeling ever. So,
I could imagine. It would be nuts. Be like, that's my dad, and they're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, I promise. That whole
oh, yeah.
conversation you have as
Yeah.
a kid, be like, my dad's a wrestler, and they're like, no, he's really not. Like,
It's the most awkward thing ever, especially like at school, because people are like, so is he doing the amateur wrestling? And I'm like, no, this is professional wrestling. And they're like, so it's not the real kind, is it? And I'm like, I don't know how to explain this to you. And then it's even worse. It was even worse at the shows, because I'd be like, that guy up there is my dad. And I'm like 6. And they're like, no, that's a good one. I'm like, no, that's really him. And they're like, oh, whatever, you know. So there were some awkward conversations back in the day.
I can imagine. So did you used to go to shows with your dad a lot when you were younger,
Yeah,
when you were
man.
growing up?
Oh yeah. You know, I think he took me on the road with him as soon as I was like maybe 3 or 4 years old. I've got memories of meeting a lot of the people that have taught me today when I was like a toddler. They're some of my earliest memories. And I remember, you know, I mean, I guess I've been around locker rooms for ever, to the point where like, even when I first broke in myself, I already knew everything to expect about, you know, from locker room etiquette all the way down to what everything smells like, you know. It's like, yeah, I've been around. He took me on the road since I was very little. I remember even we would leave straight from when he picked me up from school to go to Virginia or Tennessee or something like that. So yeah, it was a long journey from the start, because I've been doing this since I was a kid, pretty much, as far as the scenery of the whole thing, you know.
That is. I mean, that's got to be a big leg up, I would assume.
It's
Uh,
cool, yeah.
because you get to go into the same places that maybe your dad had already previously worked, and you're like, oh, I know that guy, I know this guy, I know that guy. They all know
Oh
me.
yeah, and it still happens today. You know, I'll go into a locker room that I thought was a completely fresh locker room, that I was going to be seeing completely new faces, and these are all people that are like, "Oh, Evan, we haven't seen you since you were 6," and I'm like, "That's cool," you know. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of family reunions, it feels like, but fortunately, I've had like the opportunity to meet a lot of my own new friends and people. So on my own journey, you know, which is cool, you know.
It is. It's a crazy journey because I was explaining this to somebody, and I was like, there's like 50, 60 hardcore of us,
Yeah.
and like you just go to like other towns and you just see like the same people everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And that's how I feel, because like at these shows I'll see my dad's old buddies that I've grown up around. And then there's all my new friends that are just super amped to be there, and they're ready to go, and they're like hyped up, and I'm having matches with them. And then I feel like I've got a ton of like uncles walking around at the same time that have been around this forever, and they're not so much excited because they're, you know, this is nothing new to them, you know. So that's like the funniest thing that I've had happen so far, being second generation. I'll be sitting there, I could be sitting there with you having a conversation about how excited I am to be there, and then I've got someone that I've seen since I was like 3 sitting over there like, oh man, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've known Evan since I was 20 or something, and now they're 40, and it's like it's hilarious, but it's cool.
I bet it is. I bet it's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what? Okay, I like this one too. So,
Yeah.
very first match.
Mm.
Let's go. Let's go. How you're feeling leading up to it, and
Mhm.
then right before curtain, and then how you felt coming back.
What's funny about this whole thing, and I don't want to come off as unprofessional. I don't want to look like a jerk, but I really before before my first match, I and my dad both knew that I was not supposed to be having this match. I was not ready, and my teachers were like, "Evan, we can't believe it," because I basically got myself onto a show too early, and they were all like, "Evan, this is not a good idea. We can only teach you so much. There's so little time before you could even do this show." And this was like December 2021, and I'd only been training for like 3 months, which is not good. So the thing is like when I actually got to the show, I felt great because I was really confident and like, you know, um, I love to perform. So like I was excited to get out there, but I knew deep down this could be a disaster. So, but what happened is, you know, being behind the curtain before I went out was like kind of surreal because my dad actually walked me out to the ring and was my manager. So that was kind of crazy because like right before I stepped out, we were standing there together and it kind of dawned on me, this is my time to start my own journey. I've been on the road. I've been the passenger seat little man for years, my whole life, and now dad's walking me out. And that's when I started to get kind of like, oh, this is crazy. I can't believe this is about to start. And so I have the match, and it was like 10 minutes. And I do remember, it's funny you bring this up. I remember walking back thinking that was horrible, you know? But my dad was super happy because he was like that was way better than it could have been a lot worse is what he said. And so he kind of cheered me up about it, and I've hopefully since improved. But I can't say that I wasn't not happy with the experience because nobody got hurt and it was a fun time and the crowd was into it. So but I guess my lasting thoughts on my final match is it could have been worse, but it was fine. And it was a memorable thing to have my old man, you know, lead me out for the first time.
Yeah, mine. I think first match I completely blew the comeback and just went straight home.
Well, I mean, like, well, I was the heel. So, like,
Oh
it just
God.
felt like, oh, yeah. And that's not how it's supposed to be anyway. So I was already completely like, this is going to be ridiculous. And, I mean, fortunately, I mean, okay, so the heat was horrible. It was just me kind of kicking him. And, I like fortunately had a little bit of a brain enough to be like, I'm just going to choke him a lot. And when the ref tells me to quit, I'll quit for a second, then keep choking him. But then, like, that was getting old too because I was doing that like the whole time because I barely had any moves or anything that I could do. It was so I don't know. I can't say it was boring because the crowd was like responding, but there wasn't really anything to it. The more I watch it back, sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't know anything about this, but that's what it's all about. It would have been boring if I went in and did a great job from the start, and then was just naturally great. That would be kind of a boring journey, I guess. So
It's the story of Randy Orton.
yeah, I know, and like that's great, but like I love like going to training still to this day and learning new things and being like, oh my gosh, like that's something I can do now, and this is how I can, you know, And I love, working on promos and stuff because those were kind of rusty at first as well. So, I love to learn. And so I'm happy with how things began, but I'm glad that things have been improving, just like they do for all of us.
I feel that one. I feel
Yeah.
that one. So so do you watch your matches back? And if so, this what I do is I just look at the crap. I'm like, oh, that sucked, and I write it down. I'm like, gotta fix that.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that. I always make sure that someone is possibly recording because sometimes I might be trying something new and I want to go back and see how it looked. Um, I never sit back and watch it just to enjoy it because I have like zero ego. I can't just sit back and, you know, love it, but I do make sure that I clip certain things so I can, send it to my trainers and my dad and be like, hey, does this look good? And funny enough, most of the time they're like, no, and they break it down and they'll send it back and be like, look at where your foot's at right there. And I'm like, oh, and it's the little things that I'm glad we have today. We can film with our phones and stuff, so I can easily get good feedback. And for myself, I can look at it and be like, that's not something I should probably even do anymore, or hey, like that looks really good. I'll keep doing it. The crowd liked it. So I'm just glad that we have phones today to film if no one's recording the show.
100%, 100% on that one. Just be like, hey, dude, can
Yeah.
you sneak out there in a hoodie and maybe just like just tape this
Yeah.
one real quick.
Yeah. Right.
I have a funny one on that one.
Yeah.
So I had a buddy. He goes, "Okay, so I'm wrestling Boogie," and I'm like, oh, "Okay, this is gonna be a long match, a long short match." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. The
so
longest 8 minutes ever.
he's like, so Boogie's entrance is like 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, I won't tape
Yeah.
it. This guy gives me his phone, and like, my phone doesn't do that, but it turned on. It said 2 minutes left, and I'm like, what do I record?
That's hilarious. Yeah, I was in a show in Kentucky a few weeks ago and I was having a match and it was one of those things where everything just, and matches are subjective, but like everything felt perfect and the crowd was going nuts. And even the promoter, I looked over at him and he was just loving it. And I was like, can this get any better? And I hate to call her out on the show, and she means a lot to me. But my girlfriend that was filming it,
Oh, this way.
yeah, well, no, it was no,
Oh,
that's something my dad would do. But this, she was filming, and halfway through, I looked out, and she goes, "Oh." And puts her phone up. Her phone died like halfway through, and she like I don't bring it up to her because she is so upset about it. And like I didn't even really care. I was like, it's fine, I'm sure it's someone else got it on video, or I'm sure the next time him and I work together, it'll maybe be better. And she's like, no, I don't want to talk about it because it was so good and it died halfway through. But that was something funny because I remember thinking like I can't wait to watch this back and get critiques on it and stuff. And next thing I know, there's no such footage.
oh, I've been there, been there. I've also hunted elusive footage that I thought existed, and
Yeah.
then never ever got it. So
Yeah, sometimes I'll be at shows and these guys will have like professional cameras and stuff, like some of the guys from the back, and I'm like, what are you doing with that footage? And I'll never know where it goes. I'm like, dude, where's that going? Like,
message be like, hey, can I get that?
yeah, I've thought about that. I'm like, I want to go up to that guy and be like, hey, what are you doing with that? But who knows? I may never see it again.
I've I probably got like a quarter of my matches at best. I would say at best.
Yeah, well, what I've learned is like from the start, I'm like, everybody make sure somebody's filming this. And now, it's like I can't even, keep track. I'm more, as I learn, I'm more interested in just doing my best and making sure no one gets hurt. But I love to have it on video to pick things apart, you know.
It
But
builds a social media presence too. So all
yeah,
those little
I love to get on
clips.
TikTok and post some clips and stuff, you know. I'm really bad at TikTok, dude. Like these guys and like especially the girls, dude. The ladies like on TikTok are crazy with these transitions and these filters and like they make things look like professionally edited, dude. The only thing I know how to do is like slow-mo the clip on TikTok and like add a sound and that's it, dude. Like so if anybody watching or you go on my TikTok, don't get too excited. It's kind of cheap looking. Even some of the clips, I'm so desperate for TikTok videos that like literally like the clips that I use are blurry and I still choose to use it. It's so but like I'll know that I'm proud of what I was doing in it. So I'm like I'm just gonna put it out, you know.
100%. I'm like, yeah, just find a song and then put it on, and then I'll have like people that have like these crazy angles, and I'm like, dude, who's filming for them? Like, I need that. I
I
need that.
I hate to say it. I found a clip of me on YouTube that somebody else filmed. I don't know who it is, but it was so clear that I screen recorded it, and I was like, I really hope no one has a problem with me using this clip. But like, it's too good, and I need to put it on TikTok now. And but ever since then, I've not found anything else, and it's just my bad footage of it.
I
You
fully
know.
agree. I found one promotion that had like two angles, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. It's TV. And then one's really bad, and like one's shaky, and I'm like, do what you do.
Yeah. That's how they usually cut to the shaky one right when you're doing something you're proud of, you know, or they cut away or something.
Oh, I feel that. Who would you say that your toughest opponent has been so far in your career so far?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, I have had the privilege to face a lot of important people, my teachers, um, you know, but I think the toughest opponent that I've had so far, and you may know him, his name is Joe Briggs, the doctor of
Oh
the
yeah,
street. Yeah, and he and I have had like 3 matches together, and every single time I'm like, this is a huge like challenge for me, and I never know how I'm gonna come out of it. And they're super. I'm very proud of the matches, but every time right before we lock up, I'm like, dude, this is gonna be crazy. And there's always like these brawls happen where we get to the point where we both just get up and are chopping each other and you know they're the only matches that I've had so far that I'm like these are like some wars, you know what I mean? And they push me to my limit because I'm still so new at this that like I'm proud of myself for hanging, but at the same time I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, you know. But he has taught me a lot, and it's always a privilege to be in the ring with him. But he has definitely been my toughest opponent easily because he's a technician and he'll tie me up no time. So
I love tying people up. That's fun. So who would you say if we did like a let's do a Mount Rushmore? Who's your top four all time? Who's going on that? Who's going on that mountain?
wow, you know, I think the only way that I can make a Mount Rushmore is to just put my top favorite matches up there and pick people from them, because it's so hard to pick four because I love, you know, wrestling means a lot to me and I have like so many influences. But you know, it's funny, my top matches, like my favorite matches ever, would have Ric Flair. I think that, and this is gonna be like super controversial. Like there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be like, "Dude, are you serious?" But I think Kenny Omega is definitely on it. He's like my favorite wrestler. Yeah, and number 3 would have to be AJ Styles because I mean, like we talked about earlier, he's fantastic, phenomenal. He's one of the first innovators of a well-rounded wrestler for today's modern style. And then I think, that's 3, right?
That's 3.
This 4th one's gonna be tough because I don't want to mess it up because there's like 3 or 4 or 5 people that are huge draws. You know, The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, The Rock. You know, I might have to go with Hogan on the 4th one, not just for, not necessarily for his in-ring talent, just for his influence. You know what I mean? So I think that's who I got. I think it's Flair, Hogan, Kenny Omega, and AJ Styles, which is a pretty eclectic Rushmore. But those are all,
It is good.
like, yeah, it's fine. They're all influential. So
Cena's roasting every single one of them, though. Like,
yeah. I mean, I love
he
John
is
Cena.
just a monster on the mic, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny though. Like, I mean, I love John Cena, but I've never thought to put him on like my top 10 like wrestlers list. It's not that he's not on it. It's just I don't think to put him on there. It's weird. It's like he's never been one that I watched all the time. I guess is the problem. I was too busy goofing off at TNA, you know,
because they had everybody from the WWE there.
Yeah, I know.
And WCW, they had like everybody. I couldn't imagine how much it cost to run TNA in its heyday. It must have been astronomical.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I might have to replace Hogan with Macho Man. Oh, I don't know. It's crazy. I hope you're the last person to ask me that question because it's gonna change throughout the years. I'm sure, like 2 years from now, I'm gonna be like, I don't. But those are. I'm fine with those picks.
Those are good. You gave some like. Usually, I only get like WWE Attitude guys. That's all anybody ever says.
Yeah, and most people have to include Stone Cold, which I completely understand. But he's not on mine, and it's not that he's not fantastic. It's just that it's like such a personal favorite kind of thing,
Yeah, all of mine are technical guys. They're just it's like Zack Sabre Jr., Bryan, Regal, Malenko.
Oh, dude, that's great. That's a super respectable list, and yeah, I love that. Dean Malenko needs to be on more people's Mount Rushmore.
Underrated. Just a phenomenal worker.
Yeah, I know. So great picks on your end too.
I thought about that one long and hard before. Kurt Angle's like on the very outside. He's like just sitting next door, just knocking on the door.
You know what? Hold up. I think
it's difficult.
I'm gonna change mine. Okay. I think it should be Ric Flair, Kenny Omega, Mr. Perfect, and then number 4 should be Macho Man. Who did I take off?
Hogan. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Hogan.
Yeah, the more you made me think about it, I love Mr. Perfect, so I'd have to put him on there because how can I not? I love to put. You've got to have your influences on there in a way, but they're also fantastic talent. So it's not like it's biased for me. It's a respectable list. I'm happy with my list. I finalized it. I'm not going to make any more edits until tomorrow. So.
I was actually having a conversation with somebody. Like we were talking about Kurt Hennig, and I was like, "You know who is Kurt Hennig like now?" And they're like, "Who?" And I was like, "Just by selling alone, it's Dolph Ziggler."
Yeah, it's super comparable. I love Dolph Ziggler for that reason. It's very, very influenced by Mr. Perfect, and I love Mr. Perfect. So like that's to have a new legacy carry that on, and similarity is awesome. Like Dolph Ziggler is great. So
and what he came from to where he ended up being is this is very underutilized in my opinion. I feel like he should have been a top tier guy forever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
go to. I like road stories. Like to give people a little levity in the situation. You got a good road story for me?
A good road story. You know, so far there's not been anything crazy that's happened. You know, I've got tons of road stories from when I was little. I remember my old man got pulled over on the road, like kind of a lot, it felt like. And he was never a drunk driver. He never drank alcohol or anything. It's just he's always speeding. So like I can remember like 2 times that I like little me's in the passenger seat and the blues are hitting us. And I'm like, Dad, what's going on now? Like what how bad were you speeding? And he'd always be like, son of a god, like, and just pull over. And I'm just like, and now that I'm driving, I'm like, dude, like, why was he speeding so much? Because I'm like a super safe driver, you know, like I don't speed or anything. So like in hindsight, now I'm even more like, dude, what, you were crazy driving. So yeah, I remember a couple occasions where we got pulled over and he was super frustrated about it. But you know, in my time, just a few months ago, I think this is January, I was on the road on the way to Kentucky, and I've never, you know, I hadn't been to Kentucky since I was like a kid, and now that I'm an adult, I had no idea how rough the terrain was. I had no idea, you know, what the roads were like. I knew there were mountains and that there were the Appalachian Mountains, but like I had no idea how rough it was. You know what I mean? Well, I was just driving and was kind of going a little fast, to be honest. Like I guess I wasn't speeding, okay, but I was going pretty fast. And I remember all of a sudden there's just like a 90-degree turn. And so I like hit the brakes and I'm like, oh snap. And I realized that if I didn't like notice this, I would have gone like off a mountain straight up, because I realized like it's soon it was straight up until that point, and I realized I just entered like the Appalachia or something. Like I was like, dude, because as soon as I got up there, it was curvy and crazy. I was going up a mountain. You could literally see the skyline. I was like insanely high, and I remember not high, like high on the mountain.
Altitude.
Altitude. Yeah. And I remember thinking like the whole time, like, dude, what if I just like wasn't paying attention and just like went off the mountain? Like no one would ever have found me, dude. Like I would have been dead. So that was scary. Trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah. Oh, I remember, you know how I told you that Joe Briggs was like my toughest opponent? Well, me and my girlfriend were driving after, so I wrestled him, and we were driving in Virginia, like just a few minutes after the show. We left the building, and I was like, let's stop and get something to eat. And so I go to this gas station, and there's a poster of the show on the gas station. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like my face is on a gas station. So then I open the door and go in the gas station, and there's like a McDonald's connected to the gas station, and Joe Briggs is sitting there eating a double quarter pounder. And he just a few minutes ago, the show was like, oh, you know, I'm trying this new diet or something, you know. And I saw him sitting in there eating a double quarter pounder and like a large Dr. Pepper. And I was like, Joe, what happened in that diet you were talking about? But yeah, it was like the weirdest chain of events. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to leave this gas station with my face on and this opponent that I just had. I'm just going to go now. It was crazy.
Oh. I had one I was doing. I'm not going to name the gimmick, but I was recently doing a very stupid gimmick. Very stupid gimmick. And I like was leaving the town, and I was like right on the border, and I had like something over my face, and this guy was like, You trying to rob me? I was like, no, 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 no. I'm just trying to get gas. Just trying to get gas.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
At
okay.
least
Here's
you weren't doing at least you weren't doing a killer clown gimmick. That would have been
right. Ugh.
great.
So this one happened, I think, this Friday. So I was getting gas and I was like double shooting. No, 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 don't double unless you can do it and then double shoot, whatever.
Hey,
So I was double shooting to the show and I was in full gear and these two girls were like, "Are you like in a play or something?"
yeah.
I said, I said, "Yeah." And then I
Yeah.
guess it was their dad. He goes, "Are you in AEW?" Because I was wearing like a sweater. And he goes, I'm like, "Nah." And he goes, "Probably wouldn't be driving that Honda, would you?" I was like, "Man,
Oh snap!
John
He knew.
John Cena drives a Honda."
Yeah, that's what you need to pull out when people say that one. You know. Look, I drive like a 2012 Ford Focus, all right? And if anybody has anything to say about it, it's gotten me far, and I love it. It's the Golden Mobile, you know?
So you have any upcoming dates?
Yeah, I'm finally getting back to it. This, like, Easter weekend was, like, the first weekend of the year that I've not had a date, and it was so weird, man. I was, like, sitting at Easter having a great time with my family, but I was
Square
like,
up.
oh, you
Fuck
know,
up.
does anybody want to wrestle? Yeah. I was like, I almost wanted to get on my phone and be like, are there any shows going on? Like, while everyone was eating. But the thing is, though, is you always need to give your body a break. But I can't say that I'm not excited because this Sunday in Knoxville, Urban Combat Wrestling is starting their tour.
I'm gonna be there as a fan.
You're going to be there?
I'm
Good.
I'm gonna be there.
Good.
I'm coming back from Illinois, and I'm gonna be there for that night.
Good. Yeah, it's this Sunday in Knoxville. Me and my tag team partner that we've just kind of like got going together. This will be like our third match together. Me and Jacob Thrasher. We're trying to get some wins down there, and you know we're really trying to like because we've lost all our matches at UCW so far. Like it's just how it is. Like and I didn't even get to compete in the second match because we got jump start at the last match. I got like destroyed, so I didn't even get to you know, be a part of that. So this time, like to start the tour off right, it's gonna be me and him against two other people who we'll figure out. And yeah, so and then after that, I'm gonna start going back to NOW where I won this and start defending it because that's what you got to do. And then after that, there's some good dates coming up. Lenny Stratton is having the fight against Cancer 7, which is going to be a huge show. It's super important, and it's a cause that, you know, obviously we need to get behind. You know, so I'm super excited to be a part of that one. ICWA is coming back. That's another promotion that I love to
Is that
perform.
is that Morrison? Is that the Morrison one?
Um, do you mean Morristown or?
What is one of the? Yes, I
Oh look,
guess.
man, I was like, you should have seen me. Everyone from like the East Tennessee area hates the way I say stuff. They're like, that's not. And then like I was like, so when are we going to Lebanon, Virginia again? Like it's Lebanon. They hate that. They're like, it's Lebanon. And then there's another one that I was like, Duffield, and they're no, it's Duffield. And I was like, no, it's Duffield. And they're like, no, it's Duffield. That's just how it is. You can't change it. And I was like, okay, but like, look, I don't know about all this. I'm not good at this. But anyways, yeah. So there's some good shows coming up, and I'm super excited. And yeah, ICWA is coming back to Morristown, I believe May 27th. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming up, dude, and I'm super excited. And you know, I don't know for certain, but on May 6th, I might be having a tag team match with my old man, which would be awesome because he's not competed in like over a year. And then, you know, so that could be happening in Elizabethton, Tennessee, which would be just awesome. So we'll see though. It's not nailed down. They don't have a poster yet because it's a benefit show. So they're still kind of like trying to put it together. But if that can happen, that would just make my whole year. So
Okay, I'm gonna hit you with the last question of the night. It's one that some people take lightly. Let's see how you take it.
yeah.
So, when it's all said and done, and you've hung
Mhm.
them up, what do you want your legacy to be in professional wrestling?
You know, the only thing that I can hope for is that anybody who has ever watched me have a match and, you know, got to either see me live or just on video, and, you know, all I can hope for is that they took that experience in as an experience and it made them happy, because you know, there's a lot of things that professional wrestling can bring, but I truly believe that the only thing that it needs to do is especially make people happy, because, you know, everybody's had a bad day. Everybody has something going on that they don't want to think about and talk about. And professional wrestling is the perfect thing to take that away from people and bring them an escape. So I just hope that as a wrestler, you know, people can think back and say Evan Golden was truly a fun wrestler to watch, and one that, you know, made things different, especially. So that's what I want it to be. I don't want to be better than anybody else. I don't want to be the best wrestler in this crazy wrestling family that I have. I just want people to look back and say he made things different and really fun and made me feel happy while watching it, you know. So yeah.
Awesome. That was a good final answer. All right, ladies
Cool.
and gentlemen, my name is Jackson Black. This is the second generation star, Evan Golden. And this has been another episode of the Jackson Black Show.
See you later.
Hey, everybody.